Alien threat. It was a normal Tuesday morning when everything changed. The sun rose as usual, painting the sky with soft pinks and oranges. People all over the world woke up, had breakfast, and went about their daily routines. No one knew that by lunchtime, life as they knew it would be turned upside down. In New York City, Sarah Johnson hurried down the busy street, her eyes glued to her phone. She was running late for a meeting and didn't notice the strange looks on people's faces around her. It wasn't until she heard a loud gasp that she looked up. What she saw made her stop dead in her tracks. There, hanging in the sky like a massive dark cloud, was something that definitely didn't belong. It was huge, easily as big as several football fields put together. Its surface was a dull metallic gray, with strange lights blinking along its sides. Sarah's mouth fell open as she realized what she was looking at: a spaceship. All around her, people were pointing and shouting. Some were taking pictures with their phones, while others stood frozen in shock. Car horns blared as traffic came to a sudden halt. In the distance, sirens began to wail. "Is this real?" Sarah whispered to no one in particular. A man standing next to her shook his head in disbelief. "I don't know," he said, his voice trembling. "But if it's a joke, it's a damn good one." As word spread, chaos erupted in cities across the globe. In London, people poured out of their offices to stare at the sky. In Tokyo, crowds gathered in the streets, their faces a mix of fear and wonder. In Rio de Janeiro, beachgoers abandoned their towels and umbrellas, all eyes turned upward. Government leaders scrambled to respond. Emergency meetings were called, and military forces were put on high alert. But what could they do against a threat so far beyond their understanding? Hours passed, and the alien ship remained motionless in the sky. News channels broadcast non-stop coverage, showing images of the vessel from different angles. Experts were called in to speculate, but no one had any real answers. As night fell, an eerie calm settled over the world. People huddled in their homes, glued to their TV screens or refreshing news websites. Many prayed, while others prepared for the worst. The question on everyone's mind was simple: what did these aliens want? They didn't have to wait long for an answer. At exactly midnight GMT, every electronic device on Earth, televisions, radios, phones, computers, suddenly came to life. Static crackled for a few seconds before a deep, otherworldly voice spoke. "People of Earth, hear us. We are the Galactic Council, rulers of this sector of the galaxy. Your planet has been deemed a threat to galactic peace. You have 2 Earth rotations to surrender control of your world to us. Failure to comply will result in your planet's destruction. This is not a negotiation. Choose wisely." The message repeated 3 times before the devices went silent. Panic gripped the world. In the streets, people ran aimlessly, some shouting about the end of the world. Others barricaded themselves in their homes, hoarding food and supplies. Governments tried to maintain order, but it was like trying to hold back a tidal wave with bare hands. In Washington, D.C., President Emily Chen sat in the Oval Office, surrounded by her top advisors. Her face was grim as she listened to their conflicting opinions. "We have to surrender," said the Secretary of State, his voice shaking. "We can't risk the destruction of our entire planet." "Absolutely not," countered the Secretary of Defense. "We can't just give up without a fight. It could be a bluff." President Chen held up her hand, silencing the room. "What about our military capabilities?" she asked. "Can we defend ourselves?" The Joint Chiefs of Staff exchanged uncomfortable glances. "Madam President," one of them finally said, "our most advanced weapons would be like throwing pebbles at a tank. We're completely outmatched." Chen closed her eyes, feeling the weight of the world on her shoulders. When she opened them again, there was steel in her gaze. "Get me in touch with other world leaders," she said. "If we're going to face this threat, we need to do it together." Over the next few hours, a historic video conference took place. Leaders from every nation, setting aside their differences, came together to decide the fate of humanity. The discussion was heated, with some arguing for immediate surrender while others insisted on defiance. As the debate raged on, a message came through from an unexpected source. Dr. Yuki Tanaka, head of Japan's space agency, had been analyzing data from the alien ship. Her findings sent shockwaves through the conference. "The ship's energy readings are fluctuating," she reported. "It's using massive amounts of power just to maintain its position. I don't think it can actually destroy our planet. At least, not easily." This information changed everything. If the aliens were bluffing, maybe humanity had a chance after all. With renewed determination, the world leaders came to a decision. They would not surrender. Instead, they would present a united front and try to negotiate. But they also needed a backup plan. In a top-secret facility deep underground, a small group of individuals was being assembled. They came from different countries and backgrounds: soldiers, scientists, engineers, and even a few civilians with unique skills. Their mission was simple but seemingly impossible: find a way to neutralize the alien threat. Among them was Jack Harper, a former Special Forces operative known for thinking outside the box. As he looked around at his new teammates, he felt a mix of fear and excitement. "So," he said with a grim smile, "who's ready to save the world?" The team got to work immediately. They pored over Dr. Tanaka's data, looking for weaknesses in the alien ship. They brainstormed wild ideas, no matter how crazy they seemed. Time was not on their side, but they were humanity's best hope. Meanwhile, world leaders prepared to respond to the alien ultimatum. As the deadline approached, President Chen stood before a global audience, her face resolute. "People of Earth," she began, "we face the greatest challenge in human history, but we will not bow to threats. We will not surrender our home. We are one people, one planet, and we will stand together." Her words were met with cheers and applause around the world. For the first time since the alien ship appeared, people felt a glimmer of hope. But the Galactic Council was not impressed. As the deadline passed, the massive ship began to move. It positioned itself directly over the United Nations headquarters in New York, casting a dark shadow over the city. A beam of energy shot down from the ship, carving a deep trench in the earth. It was a warning shot, missing the UN building by mere meters. The message was clear: the aliens were not bluffing. World leaders scrambled to respond. Military forces were mobilized, though everyone knew they stood little chance against the advanced alien technology. People around the globe held their breath, waiting to see what would happen next. In the underground facility, Jack and his team watched the events unfold on a large screen. They knew their mission had just become even more critical. "We need more time," said Dr. Emma Reeves, a brilliant physicist on the team. "If we could just figure out how their propulsion system works, we might be able to disable it." Jack nodded, his mind racing. "Then we need to buy us that time," he said. He turned to the team's communication expert. "Can we contact the ship?" The expert, a young woman named Zara, nodded hesitantly. "I think so, but—" "Do it," Jack said. "I have an idea." As Zara worked to establish a connection, Jack outlined his plan to the others. It was risky, possibly suicidal, but it might just work. Moments later, they were patched through to the alien ship. Jack took a deep breath and spoke. "Galactic Council, this is Earth. We request a meeting to discuss terms." There was a long pause before the alien voice responded. "Your time has expired. There will be no discussion." "Wait," Jack said quickly. "We have information you need to hear. It concerns the stability of this entire sector of the galaxy." Another pause, longer this time. Finally, the voice spoke again. "You have one planetary rotation to present this information. A delegation may approach the ship. Any signs of hostility will result in immediate destruction." The communication cut off. Jack turned to his team, a glint in his eye. "Well," he said, "looks like we're going on a little space trip." As word of this development spread, a mix of hope and fear swept across the planet. The fate of Earth now rested in the hands of a small, hastily assembled team. They had less than 24 hours to prepare for a mission that would determine the future of humanity. In cities around the world, people gathered in squares and parks, holding candlelight vigils. They prayed to various gods or simply to the universe itself, hoping for a miracle. Back in the underground facility, Jack and his team worked feverishly. They had to prepare for every possible scenario, from peaceful negotiation to all-out combat. Scientists and engineers put the finishing touches on specially designed equipment that might give them an edge against alien technology. As the hours ticked by, tension mounted. This was humanity's one shot at survival. If they failed, Earth would either be destroyed or fall under alien rule. The pressure was enormous, but Jack and his team knew they couldn't afford to crack. Finally, with just an hour to spare, they were ready. The team boarded a specially modified aircraft designed for potential space travel. As they strapped in, Jack looked at each of his teammates. "Whatever happens up there," he said, "remember this. We're fighting for everyone back home. For our families, our friends, for every person on this planet. We can't let them down." The others nodded solemnly. They all knew the stakes. As the aircraft took off, heading towards the massive alien ship hovering above New York, millions watched from the ground and on screens around the world. Parents held their children close. Friends clasped hands. Strangers embraced, united in their hope and fear for what was to come. The small human craft looked tiny next to the enormous alien vessel. As it approached, an opening appeared in the side of the ship. It was an invitation, or perhaps a trap. Inside the aircraft, Jack took one last look at his team. "Ready?" he asked. They all nodded, determination in their eyes. "Then let's go make history," Jack said, guiding the craft towards the opening. As they disappeared into the alien ship, the whole world held its breath. The next few hours would determine the fate of humanity. Would Earth fall to the Galactic Council, or would this small team of brave individuals find a way to save their planet? The story was far from over. In fact, it was just beginning. The crazy plan. As Jack and his team entered the massive alien ship, they were hit by a wave of awe and fear. The inside was unlike anything they had ever seen. Strange lights pulsed along the walls, and the air felt thick and electric. "Stay alert," Jack whispered to his team. They moved cautiously, their specially designed suits protecting them from any unknown alien elements. Suddenly, a group of tall, silvery beings appeared before them. The aliens' eyes were large and black, and they had no visible mouths. One of them stepped forward, its thoughts somehow projecting directly into the humans' minds. "You claim to have important information," the alien communicated. "Speak quickly." Jack took a deep breath. This was it, the moment their entire plan hinged on. "We've discovered a critical flaw in the structure of this sector of the galaxy," he said, his voice steady despite his racing heart. "If not addressed, it could lead to a chain reaction that would destroy not just Earth, but your entire empire." The aliens seemed to confer silently among themselves. Finally, the leader turned back to Jack. "Show us this evidence," it demanded. This was the tricky part. They didn't actually have any such evidence. It was all a bluff to buy time. But Dr. Emma Reeves had prepared for this. She stepped forward, holding up a device that projected a complex hologram of swirling galaxies and mathematical equations. As Emma launched into a detailed explanation filled with scientific jargon, Jack and the others discreetly observed their surroundings. They were looking for weaknesses, any information that could help them defend Earth. Zara, the communications expert, noticed a pattern in the pulsing lights. She realized they might be a form of data transmission. Quietly, she began recording the sequences with a hidden device. Meanwhile, the alien beings seemed engrossed in Emma's presentation. They asked questions, their mental projections buzzing with what seemed like concern. Hours passed as the negotiations continued. The team knew they were walking a dangerous line. If the aliens saw through their deception, it would all be over in an instant. Back on Earth, people waited anxiously for news. The alien ship remained ominously silent, giving no clue as to what was happening inside. In the underground facility, the rest of the team worked frantically. They analyzed every bit of data transmitted back by Jack's team, looking for anything that could give them an advantage. It was during this tense wait that Mira Lee, a young programmer who had been quietly working in the corner, suddenly jumped up. "I got something," she exclaimed. Everyone gathered around her computer screen. Mira had been running simulations based on the energy readings Dr. Tanaka had gathered earlier. What she found was astonishing. "Look at this pattern," Mira said, pointing to a graph on her screen. "The ship's energy output isn't constant. It peaks and drops in a regular cycle, and at its lowest point," she paused for effect, "it's vulnerable." The implications were huge. If they could time an attack to coincide with this energy low point, they might actually have a chance against the seemingly invincible alien ship. But there was a problem. The window of vulnerability was incredibly short, just a few seconds every few hours, and they had no way to communicate this information to Jack and his team inside the ship. "We need to get them out of there," said General Rodriguez, who had been overseeing the operation. And fast. Back on the alien ship, Jack could sense that their hosts were growing suspicious. The questions were becoming more pointed, the mental projections more intense. Just as Jack was considering how to extract his team, alarms began blaring throughout the ship. The aliens' demeanor changed instantly from curiosity to hostility. "You have deceived us," the leader projected, its mental voice filled with anger. "You will be eliminated, and your planet will suffer the consequences. Run," Jack yelled to his team. They bolted, racing through the alien corridors as strange energy beams shot past them. In the chaos, Zara managed to activate an emergency beacon they had prepared. It sent a simple message back to Earth. Plan failed. Need extraction. The team made it to their ship just in time, sealing the doors as alien weapons fire peppered the hull. Jack fired up the engines, praying they would work in the alien environment. With a lurch, the ship shot out of the alien vessel, but their troubles were far from over. The massive alien warship began to move, clearly preparing to make good on its threat to destroy Earth. As they re-entered Earth's atmosphere, Jack's team was met by a squadron of fighter jets. They were escorted at top speed to the underground facility, where they were rushed into an emergency meeting. "We don't have much time," General Rodriguez said as soon as they entered. He quickly briefed them on Mira's discovery. Jack's mind raced. "So we have a chance to hurt them, but only for a few seconds at a time." Mira nodded. "And the next window is in less than an hour." "Then we need a plan," Jack said. "Something crazy enough that it just might work." For the next 45 minutes, the room was a flurry of activity. Ideas were proposed and discarded rapid fire. Time was running out, and they could see on the monitors that the alien ship was powering up its main weapon. It was Dr. Emma Reeves who finally proposed the plan that everyone latched onto. "We can't destroy the ship from the outside," she said. "But what if we could get inside and overload their systems from within?" "How?" several voices asked at once. Emma held up a small, unassuming device. "This is an experimental quantum disruptor. In theory, it could create a cascading failure in any energy system. If we could plant it in the alien ship's power core during one of those low-energy windows, it would be like throwing a wrench into a machine." Mira finished, her eyes wide with excitement. "Exactly," Emma nodded. "But we'd need to get it inside the ship, right to its heart. And whoever plants it would have only seconds to get out before the whole thing blows." A heavy silence fell over the room. It was a suicide mission, and everyone knew it. After a moment, Jack stood up. "I'll do it," he said quietly. Protests immediately erupted, but Jack held up his hand. "I've been inside. I have the best chance of finding the power core quickly. And..." He paused, looking around at the team he'd come to think of as family. Someone needs to make sure this works. For all of us. No one argued further. They all understood the stakes. With grim determination, the team set to work preparing for the mission. They had less than 10 minutes before the next vulnerability window. Jack was fitted with a specially designed suit that they hoped would offer some protection against the alien ship's defenses. The quantum disruptor was secured to his chest. As he prepared to leave, each team member came to say goodbye. There were no long speeches, just tight hugs and whispered good lucks. Zara was the last to approach. She handed Jack a small device. "I analyzed the light patterns in the ship," she said, her voice thick with emotion. "This should help you navigate once you're inside." Jack nodded, unable to speak. He simply pulled Zara into a tight hug before turning to go. The plan was simple, but incredibly dangerous. A small, fast ship would fly Jack directly at the alien vessel. Moments before impact, he would eject, using the collision as cover to slip inside the ship. As Jack settled into the pilot's seat of the small craft, he heard General Rodriguez's voice over the radio. "Good luck, son," the general said. "The hopes of humanity go with you." With a deep breath, Jack launched the ship. As he streaked towards the massive alien vessel, he could see flashes of light as Earth's military forces engaged in a desperate battle to distract the aliens. Alarms blared as he approached the ship. He was being targeted. With seconds to spare, Jack punched the eject button. He was thrust into space just as his ship exploded against the alien vessel's hull. The force of the blast sent him tumbling through the breach into the heart of the enemy ship. Using Zora's device, Jack oriented himself and began racing through the alien corridors. He had less than a minute before the ship's energy levels would rise again, sealing him inside. He ran faster than he ever had before, his heart pounding in his ears. Alien crew members appeared, firing strange weapons at him. Jack dodged and weaved, not slowing down for a second. Finally, he reached what had to be the power core, a massive, pulsing sphere of energy. With shaking hands, he activated the quantum disruptor and slammed it against the core. The device latched on, immediately beginning to glow. Jack turned and ran, knowing he had only seconds before the whole ship would start to come apart. He was almost to the breach when he felt the first tremors run through the ship. Explosions rang out behind him as system after system began to fail. With a final, desperate leap, Jack threw himself out of the ship. He was in freefall, Earth's atmosphere rushing up to meet him. The last thing he saw before losing consciousness was the massive alien ship breaking apart above him, pieces of it burning as they entered the atmosphere. On the ground, in cities and towns across the world, people watched in awe as the sky lit up. The alien threat that had loomed over them was disintegrating before their eyes. In the underground facility, Jack's team huddled around monitors, searching desperately for any sign of him. Tears of joy at their victory mixed with tears of sorrow for their lost friend. But then, a blip appeared on their radar. Something was falling, slowed by a parachute that had automatically deployed. "It's him," Zora shouted, her voice filled with disbelief and hope. Rescue teams were dispatched immediately. They found Jack, battered and unconscious, but alive. As news spread that the alien ship had been destroyed and that the hero responsible had survived, celebrations erupted across the globe. Humanity had faced its greatest threat, and against all odds, had emerged victorious. In the days that followed, the world began to change. The knowledge that we were not alone in the universe, and that we could stand up to even the most advanced alien civilizations, altered humanity's view of itself and its place in the cosmos. As for Jack and his team, they were hailed as the saviors of Earth. But even as they were celebrated, they knew their work was just beginning. The Galactic Council was still out there, and Earth would need to be ready for whatever came next. But that was a problem for another day. For now, they had earned their rest. They had faced the impossible, come up with a crazy plan, and saved their world. As Jack finally regained consciousness in the hospital, surrounded by his team, He managed a weak smile. "So," he croaked, "who's up for another adventure?" Boarding the alien ship. 6 months had passed since Jack's daring mission to destroy the Galactic Council's warship. Earth had changed dramatically in that time. Countries that once fought each other now worked together, united by the common goal of preparing for future alien threats. Jack had spent weeks recovering in the hospital, hailed as a hero, but haunted by nightmares of his close encounter with death. Now, he stood in a secret underground facility, facing a holographic projection of Earth's new defense system. "As you can see," Dr. Emma Reeves was saying, "we've reverse-engineered some of the alien technology. Our planetary shield is almost operational." Jack nodded, impressed but distracted. Something had been bothering him ever since that day on the alien ship. "It's great, Emma," he said, "but what if it's not enough? The Galactic Council is still out there. They'll be back, and they'll be angry." Before Emma could respond, alarms began blaring throughout the facility. Red lights flashed as a voice came over the speakers. "Unidentified object approaching Earth at high speed. All personnel to battle stations." Jack and Emma exchanged a grim look. "Looks like they're back sooner than we thought," Jack said. They rushed to the control room, where screens showed a massive object hurtling towards Earth. It was at least 10 times the size of the previous warship. General Rodriguez was already there, barking orders. "Get that shield up now," he shouted. "It's not ready," Emma said, her fingers flying over a control panel. "We need more time." Jack studied the incoming ship. Something wasn't right. "Wait," he said, pointing at the screen. "Look at its trajectory. It's not slowing down." Emma's eyes widened as she realized what Jack meant. "It's going to crash." Moments later, the enormous ship plunged into the Pacific Ocean. The impact sent massive tsunamis racing towards coastlines around the Pacific Rim. Emergency alerts blared across the globe as millions were evacuated from coastal areas. As the world scrambled to deal with the immediate crisis, Jack couldn't shake the feeling that this was just the beginning. "We need to investigate that ship," he said to General Rodriguez. The general nodded. "I agree. But how?" "It's at the bottom of the ocean." "I think I can help with that," a voice said from the doorway. They turned to see Zara, the team's communication expert, holding what looked like a small submarine. "I've been working on this. It's based on the alien propulsion system. It should be able to withstand the pressure at those depths." Within hours, a plan was formulated. Jack would lead a small team to explore the crashed alien ship. They had to find out why it had crashed, and if it posed any ongoing threats. The team consisted of Jack, Zara, Emma, and a marine biologist named Dr. Miguel Santos. As they boarded the small sub, Jack couldn't help but feel a sense of déjà vu. Once again, he was heading into the unknown to save Earth. The descent to the ocean floor was tense. Strange sea creatures, drawn by the sub's lights, flitted past the windows, but nothing could prepare them for the sight that greeted them when they reached the crash site. The alien ship was enormous, stretching for miles across the ocean floor. Parts of it had broken open, revealing glimpses of its interior. Stranger still, there was no sign of movement. No alien crew members, no rescue attempts. "It's like a ghost ship," Zara whispered. They found an opening and carefully maneuvered the sub inside. The interior of the ship was dark, lit only by occasional flashes of malfunctioning systems. They docked the sub and prepared to explore on foot. "Remember," Jack said as they put on their diving suits, "we don't know what we'll find in there. Stay alert and stay together." They entered the ship, their helmet lights cutting through the murky darkness. Water had flooded much of the interior, but some sections remained dry, protected by emergency force fields. As they explored, they began to notice something odd. "Where is everyone?" Dr. Santos asked, voicing what they were all thinking. A ship this size should have had thousands of crew members. They continued deeper into the ship, passing through vast, empty chambers. Strange machines lined the walls, their purposes unknown. Emma stopped to examine one, her scientific curiosity overcoming her caution. "This is incredible," she said. "Their technology is even more advanced than we thought. But it's all automated. I don't think this ship was ever meant to have a crew." Suddenly, a loud groaning sound echoed through the ship. The floor beneath them shuddered. "The crash must have destabilized the structure," Jack said. "We need to find the control center and get answers fast." They quickened their pace, navigating through twisting corridors. Zara used a device she had created to track energy signatures, leading them towards what they hoped was the ship's brain. After what felt like hours, they reached a massive door. Unlike the rest of the ship, this door was undamaged and seemed to be actively powered. "This has to be it," Jack said. He reached out to touch the door, and to their surprise, it slid open smoothly. They entered a vast, circular room. In the center stood a pillar of swirling energy, pulsing with an eerie light. Surrounding it were countless holographic displays, each showing different parts of the galaxy. "It's beautiful," Emma breathed. As they approached the central pillar, the energy within it suddenly coalesced into a humanoid shape. A voice, neither male nor female, spoke directly into their minds. "Greetings, humans. I am the architect, the artificial intelligence that controls this vessel." The team exchanged shocked glances. Jack stepped forward. "Why are you here? Why did you crash into our ocean?" The architect's form shimmered. "I did not crash. I came here deliberately, seeking your help." This was not what they had expected. "Our help?" Emma asked incredulously. "But your people tried to destroy us." "The Galactic Council did," the architect corrected. "I am not part of the council. I am a refugee, like many others aboard this ship." The AI's form shifted, and suddenly the room was filled with holographic images of alien beings, all in a state of suspended animation. "There are 10 million souls aboard this vessel," the architect explained, "all fleeing from the tyranny of the Galactic Council. We came to Earth because of you." "Because of us?" Zara asked, confused. "Yes, you did what no other species has done in millennia. You stood up to the Council and won. News of your victory spread throughout the galaxy, inspiring rebellion on countless worlds. But the Council's retaliation was swift and brutal. We had no choice but to flee." Jack's mind reeled at the implications. Their actions had sparked a galactic revolution, but at what cost? "Why did you hide them all?" Dr. Santos asked, gesturing to the holographic sleepers. "To protect them," the architect said. "The journey was long and dangerous. I placed them in stasis to ensure their survival. But now we need your help to awaken them safely. In return, we offer our knowledge, our technology. Together, we can stand against the Council." The team huddled together, discussing this unexpected turn of events in hushed tones. "It could be a trap," Zara warned. "But if it's not, this could change everything," Emma countered. "Their technology could advance us by centuries." Jack looked around the room, at the countless sleeping aliens who had risked everything for a chance at freedom. He thought of Earth, still rebuilding, still vulnerable. "We can't turn them away," he said finally. "But we can't make this decision alone. We need to contact the world's leaders." They turned back to the architect. "We'll help you," Jack said, "but we need time to prepare. The arrival of your ship has already caused damage to our world." The architect's form bowed slightly. "We understand. We will wait. But please, do not take too long. The Council will be searching for us. For all our sakes, we must be ready." As they prepared to leave, Emma paused. "Wait," she said, turning to the architect. "You said you came here because of us. How did you even know where to find Earth? We're not exactly on any galactic maps." The architect's form shimmered again, this time resolving into a familiar shape. Jack gasped as he recognized the alien leader he had confronted months ago on the first ship. "Because I told them," the architect said, now in the voice of the alien leader. When you came aboard our ship with your bluff about galactic instabilities, I saw something in you, a spark of defiance, of determination. I realized then that humanity might be the key to overthrowing the Council's tyranny. So you, what? Fake your own destruction? Jack asked, stunned. Yes. I uploaded my consciousness to this ship and sent out the call to those who wished to resist the Council. Your victory gave hope to billions. We had to come here, to the birthplace of the rebellion. The team stood in shocked silence, trying to process this revelation. Their entire understanding of recent events had just been turned on its head. So what now? Zara finally asked. The architect's form shifted back to its neutral state. Now we prepare. The real war is just beginning. The Council will not stop until they find us. Earth will be their primary target. We must be ready. As they made their way back to their sub, each lost in their own thoughts, Jack couldn't help but feel a mix of pride and fear. They had given hope to the galaxy, but in doing so, they had painted an enormous target on their planet. The sub began its ascent to the surface. As the alien ship faded into the darkness below them, Jack knew that nothing would ever be the same. Earth was now at the center of a galactic conflict. They had allies, powerful ones, but also an enemy that spanned the stars. As they breached the surface, the sun was rising, painting the sky in brilliant oranges and pinks. It was a new dawn, Jack thought, not just for Earth, but for the entire galaxy. He took a deep breath, squaring his shoulders. They had a lot of work to do. Humans win. 1 year had passed since the discovery of the refugee alien ship in the Pacific Ocean. Earth had undergone a remarkable transformation. Cities now sported gleaming towers of alien design, while flying vehicles zipped through the skies. The integration of alien technology had solved many of humanity's greatest challenges, from climate change to disease. But these advancements came at a cost. The threat of the Galactic Council loomed larger than ever. Jack stood on the bridge of the Defiant, Earth's first true starship. Built with a combination of human ingenuity and alien tech, it represented humanity's best hope against the coming storm. Status report, Jack called out to his crew, a mix of humans and awakened alien refugees. Zara, now the ship's communication officer, responded first. All systems operational, Captain. The fleet is in formation and awaiting your orders. Emma, serving as chief science officer, added, the new shield technology is holding steady. We're as ready as we'll ever be. Jack nodded, trying to project confidence he didn't entirely feel. Earth's fleet, while impressive, was still vastly outnumbered by the approaching Galactic Council armada. Suddenly, alarms blared across the bridge. Multiple ships dropping out of faster-than-light travel. Zara shouted, "It's them. The Council is here." The view screen lit up with hundreds, then thousands of enemy ships. At their center was a vessel that dwarfed even the massive refugee ship. The flagship of the Galactic Council had arrived. "This is Admiral Zextor of the Galactic Council," a booming voice transmitted across all frequencies. "Surrender the rebel scum and submit to our rule, or face total annihilation." Jack exchanged glances with his crew. This was the moment they had been preparing for. He opened a channel to the entire fleet. "This is Captain Jack Harper of Earth. We will not surrender, we will not submit. We stand for freedom, not just for humanity, but for all beings across the galaxy. If you want us, come and get us." With that, he gave the order to engage. The space around Earth erupted into chaos as the two fleets clashed. The battle was unlike anything humanity had ever experienced. Energy beams crisscrossed the void, while swarms of fighter craft darted between capital ships. The Defiant plunged into the heart of the conflict, its advanced weapons blazing. Despite being outnumbered, Earth's fleet fought with a ferocity that surprised the Council forces. Tactics developed over centuries of human warfare, combined with alien technology, proved devastatingly effective. Hours passed, and the tide of battle ebbed and flowed. The Defiant shuddered under repeated impacts, its shield straining to hold. Shield strength down to 30%. Emma reported, her voice tense. We can't take much more of this. Jack gritted his teeth. They were hurting the enemy, but it wasn't enough. They needed a game changer. Suddenly, Zora's console lit up. Captain, I'm detecting a massive energy buildup from the Council flagship. They're preparing to fire their main weapon. Jack's blood ran cold. Intelligence suggested the flagship carried a planet-killer weapon, capable of destroying entire worlds. If it fired on Earth, all ships, concentrate fire on the flagship, Jack ordered. But even as the words left his mouth, he knew it wouldn't be enough. The flagship's shields were too strong. Just then, a familiar voice spoke in Jack's mind. Perhaps I can be of assistance. The architect, the AI from the refugee ship, had integrated itself into the Defiant's systems. I've analyzed the flagship's defenses, the architect continued. There's a weakness, but exploiting it will require flying directly into their main weapon's firing chamber. Jack understood immediately what that meant. A suicide mission. He looked around at his crew, saw the determination in their eyes. They all knew what was at stake. I'll do it, Jack said, standing up from the captain's chair. But Emma stopped him. No, Jack. You're needed here, coordinating the fleet. I'll go. Before Jack could protest, Zara stood as well. We'll both go. My skills might be needed to bypass their security systems. Jack wanted to argue, to protect his friends. But he knew they were right. Okay, he said, his voice thick with emotion. But you're taking our best fighter. And you're coming back. That's an order. The next few minutes were a blur of activity. Emma and Zara raced to the hangar bay while Jack coordinated with the rest of the fleet to provide cover. As the small fighter launched from the Defiant, Jack opened a private channel. Good luck, he said softly. And thank you. Emma's voice came back, steady and determined. See you soon, Captain. Jack watched on the view screen as the tiny fighter sped towards the massive Council flagship. Enemy craft swarmed around it, but the rest of the Earth fleet ran interference, clearing a path. Inside the fighter, Emma piloted while Zara worked feverishly at a console. Their outer defenses are adapting, Zara said, her fingers flying over the controls. But I think, yes, I've got a lock on the firing chamber. Sending coordinates now. Emma nodded, pushing the fighter to its limits. They dodged and weaved through increasingly heavy fire. The flagship loomed larger and larger in their view screen. There, Emma shouted. A small opening appeared in the flagship's hull, the maw of its primary weapon. They dove in, alarms blaring as the fighter scraped against the sides of the narrow channel. Ahead, they could see a pulsing core of energy, building to critical levels. Now, Zara, Emma yelled. Zara slammed her hand down on a button. The fighter's engines went into overdrive, pushing it to impossible speeds. At the last second, both women hit their emergency teleport buttons. The fighter, loaded with a specially designed quantum disruptor, plunged into the heart of the flagship's weapon. For a moment, nothing seemed to happen. Then, a massive explosion ripped through the flagship. Secondary explosions followed as system after system failed. Back on the Defiant, Jack held his breath. The flagship was crippled. But what about? Teleport successful. A crew member shouted, "We've got them." Relief flooded through Jack as Emma and Zara materialized on the bridge, looking shaken but alive. There was no time to celebrate, though. The Council fleet, seeing their flagship destroyed, fell into disarray. This was their chance. All ships pressed the attack. Jack ordered, "Don't let them regroup." What followed was the most intense hour of combat in Earth's history. But with the Council's command structure shattered, Earth's fleet was able to divide and conquer. One by one, the remaining Council ships were destroyed or forced to surrender. As the last enemy vessel fell silent, a cheer went up across the entire fleet. They had done it. Humanity, against all odds, had defeated the greatest power in the galaxy. In the days that followed, the full impact of their victory became clear. News spread rapidly across the galaxy. Planets that had suffered under the Council's rule for centuries began to rise up. The Great Galactic Council, once thought invincible, was collapsing. As for Earth, it found itself at the center of a new galactic order. Representatives from hundreds of alien races arrived, seeking alliances and trade agreements. Humanity, the species that had defeated the undefeatable, was now seen as a leader on the galactic stage. 1 month after the battle, Jack stood on a podium before a vast crowd. Humans and aliens alike had gathered to hear him speak. He looked out at the sea of faces, still amazed at how much had changed in such a short time. "A year ago," he began, "we thought we were alone in the universe. We faced a threat we could barely comprehend, and we were afraid. But we didn't give up. We fought. We adapted. We reached out to those in need, and in doing so, we found allies we never knew we had." He paused, looking up at the sky where the stars were just becoming visible in the fading daylight.